And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. How are you doing? It's Warren, and we are going to be talking about the latest edition of AEW Dynamite, which also includes an extra hour for Collision. So we're doing a big 3-hour schmush here that happened on December 17, 2025, over there in Manchester, England, at the old Co-op Live venue. Before we get into anything deeper, first of all, I do want to say thank you, everyone, for being here, for hopping in, for joining. I appreciate it. And then just segue into a little bit of holiday housekeeping. As you know, next Thursday is Christmas Day. So I will not be recording a Dynamite review on Christmas Day. Or even on Christmas Eve. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. But I do plan on watching Dynamite next week and therefore reviewing it as well over the next following couple of days. Might be on Friday, might be on Saturday. The point is that the Dynamite review is going to be delayed next week. So I'm sure you'll be able to find something else to do. I'm sure you'll be able to play with all of the new toys that you will have received for the holidays. You'll hang out with your family, with your loved ones, with some friends. Go see a movie. It's like there's so much you'll be able to do there. And then I'll be back around, and everything will be fine as far as the review goes. And I won't be doing a stream on next Thursday as well. There won't be none of that. I will do one this upcoming Monday, but and it might be the same situation for New Year's, since both days fall on Thursdays. So it might be exactly the same situation that we deal with when we get around to New Year's. So just stick around. Follow me on social media, on Blue Sky, which is pretty much the only one I use. Keep an eye out on the community tab here on YouTube, or join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. Those are all the best ways to stay abreast of what's going on, and if there's any issues and things that are happening, you will be well informed there. You'll know exactly what's going through my goofy brain, at least as far as that goes. But nonetheless, 10,815 tickets were distributed for this show in Manchester. They had a setup of 11,449 for the show, according to WrestleTix, of course. This is going to be one of AEW's, if not the biggest weekly taping live gate. I think it might be the biggest one. I'm not quite sure. I could have checked before starting recording, but I didn't, and I'm going to press pause and check no, because I got to get this recording out. I've stalled enough. We're already late, thank you for hanging around, by the way. I was talking about being late next week and whatnot. I was late this week, so I apologize for that. Life got into the way, and stuff happened. Look, the long and short of it, I know I'm backtracking here. I'm scattered all over the place. Like I said, I want to get this review out. But essentially what happened is I had a really busy day on Thursday. And I knew it was going to be really busy, like super duper busy, starting really, really early in the morning. But I thought I was going to be able to record the review on Wednesday night, and then do a bit of editing and then push it out. But I didn't account for what I didn't account for is that Dynamite last night was 3 hours. So I was like, oh shit, by the time I get done, it's going to be like, 1 a.m., 1:30. And I have to get up super early. I can't just put in like 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I just can't. I can't do it. So I say 2 or 3, maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep. That's maybe more it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna I'll record it after the Thursday stream and then put it out, and then everyone will have it on Friday. It'll be a little late, but not super duper late. Anywho, the important thing is that we're here, and I just was completely. I planned this, I planned everything out very, very poorly, essentially. So it's on me. I apologize for delivering this review late, but thank you nonetheless for being here, and thank you for your patience and your understanding and all of that. Let's get to the review. We talked about the attendance. It's great. These are fantastic numbers. Every time they go to the UK, there's an appetite for AEW, and that's fantastic. So, it's great. It really, really is great. Like I said, probably their biggest attendance of the year. Probably. I couldn't tell you. Let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Like we've been doing over the past couple of weeks, we are going to go through our Continental Classic matches. First and foremost, get the C2 festivities out of the way. Jon Moxley defeated Roderick Strong in a Blue League match. This was a good, hard-hitting opener with shoulder blocks, palm strikes, and Roderick Strong smartly working the ankle, right? The leg, specifically targeting Moxley's ankle, where he's like, Kyle O'Reilly, my buddy Kyle O'Reilly probably gave me some notes, or I just watched the match and I know this is one of Mox's weak points, so he goes for that. So I like that part there. Strong hitting signature offense, doing all sorts of great stuff, doing an Olympic slam, and does this great backbreaker on the steel steps as well. He does a super kick, and then there's this neat little sequence. I don't know, it was just a little simple sequence, but I really, really liked it. I probably because it was really well executed. Roderick Strong, he blocks a cutter attempt, then he runs the ropes, bounces back, and then Mox is waiting for him and lands the cutter there, which was fantastic. I don't know. I thought it was really, really well done. Pile driver by Mox. We got a big knee strike by Roderick Strong, who then covers Moxley, who kicks out. Moxley then fights out of the stronghold, but then hits a couple of Death Riders and gets the job done. It was a good, hard-hitting fight. I enjoyed it a lot. I gave it, I believe, I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I really liked that. I didn't remember how much I liked it, so but that's what I wrote there. 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was really, really strong, really, really well put together, well paced, and guys just beating the piss out of each other. It was fantastic. Now, the bad news is that Roderick Strong becomes the first guy to be eliminated from the Continental Classic, as he stays at 0, whereas Mox, who needed this win nonetheless, to stay in contention, he gets an extra 3 points. So he is at 6. So from this point on, Rod Strong, he's going to be completely in spoiler territory. Next, we had, the next Continental Classic match we're going to talk about is Kyle Fletcher versus Pac. I'm going to tell you, I think I'm not necessarily going to break this one down all that much. I'm gonna rave about the finish, which I thought was fantastic, where Fletcher fights out of a brutalizer, and then he lands the brain buster on Pac, and Pac kicks out after the pin attempt, and then Pac does an avalanche poison Rana, which was absolutely bonkers, then hits the red arrow for the win. The final stretch of this match was absolutely phenomenal. But the match and look, I gave this 3.5 stars. I liked this match. I thought it was a good, solid match. But yeah, I will express disappointment. I was disappointed in this match. I had much higher hopes for Pac versus Fletcher. I really, really had very, very high expectations. I was hoping that this was going to be a match that was going to tear the house down, that was going to bring us back. This had all the tools to be like a Kyle Fletcher, Speedball Mike Bailey type situation. It had that kind of situation, because that's the kind of workers that Fletcher and Pac are. So even though I look at it objectively and I say, this was a good match, well structured, well put together, good story, but it lacked the fire, and it really lacked the next gear. It never hit a next gear. With what they were doing towards the end, I was sure that I was sure we were going to get like an extra 5-6 minutes. I was like, okay, here we go. Now we're getting into this sequence of stuff where they're going to lay into each other and they're going to be exhausted, and then we're going to lead to the final stretch, and it's just going to be fucking amazing. But we never got there. So it's a good match, a high level good match, but I cannot help but be disappointed here. Anyway, Pac wins. He gets an extra 3 points, so he is at 6 as well. There's going to be a lot of people. Oh, this was a Gold League match, by the way, which means that there's a lot of people in the Gold League, right, who are at 6 points. We'll be talking about that. And Orange Cassidy defeated Mascara Dorada in Blue League action. Fine little match. I thought, it was. It had the vibes I thought that it was going to have, the work where Orange Cassidy is, very dynamic, acrobatic, would acclimate really, really well with a lucha guy like Mascara Dorada. And you could feel it, right? That they had affinities, but didn't quite completely mesh, but had some really dynamic, really fun back and forth, landing DDTs and counters, and then eventually they trade reversals until Cassidy counters into a crucifix and gets the win. Bit of a flash win again. Well, I mean, it's also kind of Orange Cassidy's calling card, right? That's been his thing for a while, where he's just like, he gets these surprise wins just out of nowhere type of thing. So he earns another 3 points. He's at 6 in the Blue League. Mascara Dorada stays at 3. Cassidy after match throws his sunglasses at Dorada, who, he doesn't have ears because he's wearing a mask. So he's not going to be able to, he's not going to be able to wear the aviators. I don't know what to tell you. So that's where we're at. So those were the matches, I should say. Where we're at, though, well, in the Continental Classic, as of now, spoiler free, because, there have been other C2 matches that happened and will be broadcast this weekend on that extra hour of Collision that they're doing on Saturday afternoon. And I'm going to stay completely spoiler free in this circumstance, even though I'm looking at this analysis and I'm like, well, it's not exactly the exact setup, not exactly the same thing. Anyway, completely spoiler free, not considering anything that I've heard since then. In the Gold League, we have Kazuchika Okada, Speedball Mike Bailey, Kyle Fletcher, and Pac, who are all tied at 6 points. A little bit of a logjam happening there. Kevin Knight is at 3 points. And Jack Perry rounds out the bottom at 0. But don't forget, Jack Perry still has 3 matches left. He has 1 match more still in the chamber left, as opposed to everyone else in the Gold League, who all have 2 matches left, except for Kyle Fletcher, who only has 1 more match left. So Kyle Fletcher will top out at 9 points if he wins. If he draws, it'll be at 7, or he might stay at 6. Of course, those are the 3 results. But the maximum number of points that Fletcher can finish with at this point is 9, whereas all of his other rivals right now, who are at 6 points, all have 2 more matches, so all have the potential to finish with 12 points. And it's as far as the Blue League goes, well, it is still led by Claudio Castagnoli and Konosuke Takeshita, both who have 7 points, of course, coming off that draw from a couple of days ago. Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley come up then with 6 points apiece, 3 points for Mascara Dorada, and as we mentioned, Roderick Strong is at 0. He is eliminated. Jon Moxley is the only guy. Is the only guy who has. Not the only guy, is one of the 2 guys who has 1 match left. There, I was able to get through that one. So Moxley has the potential to finish with 9 points, whereas Castagnoli has the potential to finish with 10. Everyone else in the tournament, in the Blue League, has 2 matches left. And Roderick Strong at this point, all he can really do is be a spoiler. And he has the potential to spoil Claudio Castagnoli's tournament because he still has to face Mascara Dorada on one hand and Claudio on the other. So, look, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Roderick Strong, let's put it this way. If Claudio Castagnoli versus Roderick Strong happens on the last night of Blue League action, and when I mean the last night of action, I mean, Roderick Strong versus Mascara Dorada happened before Castagnoli versus Strong. If that's the scenario, then I think it's pretty safe to say that Roderick Strong is going to spoil Castagnoli's tournament, and that will probably help Konosuke Takeshita move forward. And maybe that'll allow... Here, let me put it to you in another way, or maybe a simpler way. Let's say Mox beats Orange Cassidy on his last night. That will bring him up to 9. He technically then has more points than Claudio Castagnoli, of course, with Claudio at 7. If Claudio loses his last match against Roderick Strong, he will stay at 7 points. So Moxley has a very strong chance then of being one of the 2 guys moving forward. But if Claudio beats Roderick Strong, even if Jon Moxley wins against Orange Cassidy, Claudio is still moving forward, and he will be at 10 points. If Claudio wins his next match, Mascara Dorada is going to be mathematically eliminated as well, because Mascara Dorada has 2 more matches left, so he can make it up to 9. But again, if Claudio wins, he goes up to 10. So Claudio moves forward. I'm starting to think that Takeshita and Mox are going to be the 2 guys who are going to move forward. So we'll have to see how the rest all turns out. Let's get into then the rest of the show. Should we go right ahead and just talk about the big news, the biggest news of the evening, the return of MJF after his absence? That's, I believe, the biggest point of discussion in this Dynamite, which I thought was good, a good edition of Dynamite. I got a lot of people calling it great and whatnot, and we've had great Dynamites recently. I thought this was good. Don't get me wrong. I just wouldn't call it great, but definitely like the cornerstone, the big talking point coming out of this Dynamite was the return of MJF during the world title contract signing. So Tony Schiavone is there in the ring, and he's got the contract, and we're doing the contract signing, and at least they're not doing like everyone sitting down at a table, right? Which is kind of like one of the worst parts, where everyone's just sitting down and low energy. Now everyone was standing up and kind of low energy. I don't know. Like, I was assuming that we were going to get something a lot more visceral. Maybe some, give me some of that hate that can really feed these types of feuds, But instead we got Hangman and Swerve, basically saying we respect each other and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, all right. I kind of wish you didn't, and Hangman, the promo he cut was good, where he was, basically saying, Joe, I don't understand. You were on my side just a couple of months ago, trying to get that title out of a briefcase. We were fighting the Death Riders together. Now you're an asshole now. And Hangman starts listing off all the people that he was going to give a title shot to. And I'm like, I think it was just an excuse to slide in the name of Will Ospreay so that first of all, we don't forget him, but also to get the big hometown reaction to home country reaction, countryman reaction, I guess. I think that was kind of part of it, because I don't know, I thought that was a little weird. I thought it was just a little strange. Hangman going, oh, well, this is what could have been. I'm like, all right, well, yeah. I mean, you could, it's just words, and it's not going to happen now, but anyway. And then the lights go out. come back on. MJF comes out. Big reaction from the crowd. People are happy to see him. And he walks right in, grabs the contract and adds his name to it. He's basically executing his contract clause. I think that's the terminology, right? It's not cash in, right? It's execution of the contract clause that he had, inserting himself into the match. He tried to give a little explanation as to why he did it. And it is what it is. I think it's kind of strange that Max was going to add himself into the contract situation. Not the contract situation, excuse me, the four-way, because you have to fight 3 other guys to get the title. And I don't know, like, I don't know. I feel like MJF would have been smarter about this, unless he has a plan for which is entirely possible. So he gets on the mic and of course he starts, going after everyone. He calls Joe Sloppy Joe, and he calls the Hangman Seabiscuit and all of that. And, look, of course the big talking point is whatever he said, he being MJF, regardless of what he said, the big talking point was his return, because then it divides the AEW fan base into the people who absolutely hate MJF and the people who like him or / are like at the very least happy to see him back, right? If you've been listening, watching for any extent of time, my stuff, right? Watching and listening to my stuff, that I like MJF. I like him quite a bit. I think he's very good at what he does. I think he's an extremely underappreciated talent. And he said once, and I concur with him, that I think this is a guy who's going to get his flowers once he's done, once his career is wrapped up. This is a guy who fans are going to miss when he's gone. But I don't want to pretend like I don't know the reasons. I know what the reasons are. I understand them, and I don't agree with them. But there are multiple reasons why people don't like MJF. A lot of it has to do with the content of his promos. A lot of people like to say that he's a try-hard, he's edgy, he's an edgelord. He tries to, he's corny at times. And all I do is I go like this and I go, yes, yes. Like, this is the very essence of MJF. And here's the thing that I find in every bit of MJF discourse that exists out there. This is what I find the most disingenuous, is that when MJF comes out and cuts promos where he's using like corny lines, like, calling Hangman Seabiscuit. I'm like, Sloppy Joe. I'm like, Or he starts to get edgy, like the P. Diddy line, where you're like, all right. It's like, okay, and people will harp on that. Then it becomes the fixation. And this is all what people talk about. Like, suddenly, AEW is going to start falling apart at the seams because MJF is going to continue cutting these types of promos and so on and so forth, right? But then they will seldom, I don't want to group everyone in, but a lot of his most passionate detractors will never give him the time of day when he does cut an excellent promo, like he is able to do. So the question is, is the question truly, Max can be great, but sometimes he's lazy? Or is the question more, Max is great, and sometimes the MJF character doesn't put in the effort, and when he does, it is such a stark contrast, because then we see how great he can be, but he falls back on these edgelord reaction, on these edgelord tropes to push himself forward. And I think there's a mix of both. I think there is some times where you're like, come on, Max, you could do better, right? Because there are legitimate criticisms to volley towards Max and his promos, right? There are legitimate criticisms that you can levy. The typical one, the one I think that most people agree on, is that sometimes, you kind of feel like MJF, could use a little editing to tighten up his promos. And I think that's legitimate. I think that's one that oftentimes, that's what hinders him the most and is probably most problematic as far as his promo work goes. But every time MJF cuts those excellent promos where he is angry, he's unhinged, he's upset, is when he gets pushed too far. He will always come in being overconfident, cocky, self-assured, and he'll be just dropping this stuff as if he's considering himself to be the greatest on earth. And then when it doesn't go his way, then he gets upset. Then maybe he loses a match and he gets worse. And then those really angry promos start coming out. And I feel like MJF never gets the credit for those. I think that every time he comes out, everyone is so hyper-focused on everything he says. I think it's alienating at some point. I don't even think, I think what the promo he cut last night was fine. Was it his greatest? No, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good promo. Saw people complain about the length of the promo that he had. I'm like, look, this is his return promo. This is his return to AEW. So yeah, you're going to give him time. You're going to let him have more time on the microphone than the other guys. No, I don't mind that the other guys didn't have a chance to respond. Because you know what? We've got an entire other week of build. We've got an entire other week for Max to get shut down verbally by Swerve or Hangman or Joe. So no, it doesn't bother me. But the conceit is this, ultimately. The conceit is this. You don't like MJF, I'm not going to change your mind. I can sit here until I'm blue in the mouth to try and break down how I think MJF is not as even remotely as offensive or terrible as most of his detractors think or feel like he is. There's no point in doing that for me. Because I'm not going to convince anyone of that. All I can do is tell you how I perceive it, how I see it. And I'm not going to try to convince you. If you find my points compelling, that's great. If my points help entrench you into your own positions, okay, that's great too. I'm 100% cognizant of the fact that regardless of what I say, regardless how I frame my thoughts into trying to break down how I feel about it, how I observe how this is going, and how I think he is the most successful heel in professional wrestling today because of all the heat he gets, well, we're still going to have extremely unreasonable takes. We're going to have people comparing him to Triple H, which is a very bizarre comparison. We're talking about a guy who is not afraid to work with others. Despite the perception that people have that, he's a modern day Triple H and so on and so forth, that he's not, that he loses, he takes L's, he does the right thing. He knows when to, he knows when to put the baby face over and when it's his time to shine. Like, I'm sorry, but again, like it's not unlike Chris Jericho where people were unreasonably upset at him because they thought, oh, the Jericho vortex and whatnot. But we're like, it's the same type of situation. There truly is MJF derangement syndrome. This is all I can observe. This is what I observe. I observe a tremendous heel who does such good heel work that there are people that get legitimately upset when he shows up on television. And no matter how upset these people get, they still watch the product because they want to see their guys beat him up. Eventually, because they've been building to it, eventually we're going to get another instance of the Hangman versus MJF. That's going to happen. And that's exactly what the Hangman fans want. That's what the Swerve fans want. They want this match. They want this match to happen because they hate MJF and they want him to get beaten up. And they can say whatever they want in regards to, oh, well, he's being inserted into, one of my, in a story with my favorites and I hate it. And that's the point. It's like, this is how much wrestling over the past 2 decades, just being under the auspice of one man, essentially, has completely transformed how we see the heels, how we perceive the heels, and our relationship that we have with wrestling. Everything now is very wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The fans are in on it. We don't really want to hate the heels. We just want to, play along with it. We want to be part of the show. We know what our part is to do. Look, in WWE, there's Dominic Mysterio. That WWE clearly, try to push down everyone's throats that he's this mega heel and he gets mega heat. But every time you see people booing Dom Mysterio at these events, they're doing, they're going boo with a big smile on their face. They're pointing their thumbs down. That's what they're doing. They don't hate Dominic Mysterio. They're playing along. And that's kind of what I feel AEW fans, at least that segment of AEW fans, feel. And I think they're very, very vocal and loud, and they are a minority because I saw MJF return in front of 10,000 people and get a huge reaction. People were legitimately happy to see him back. And then I pointed that out to someone on Blue Sky, and that person responded to me saying, well, I guess he's not doing his job as a heel really well. I'm like, so he can't win. So he cannot win. The point here is that I am, 100% convinced that if this guy was as big of a detriment to business as people make him out to be, he would not be in the spots that he's in. Oh, but he's a great, he does his politics really, really well. He's a big behind the scenes manipulator, just like Triple H. I'm like, look, I'm not gonna take away the idea that Tony Khan likes MJF and likes MJF a lot, right? But there is also this perception, this wacky perception that MJF is just like, he sits above everyone and he's got everyone else in the locker room, dangling from his fingers with thread, and he's like dance puppets, I have you all, I hold you now, like he's this master puppeteer. And it's funny because yes, he has pull. He gets to do a lot of what he wants because he has that leeway in AEW, but he doesn't have creative control. He doesn't have ultimately say over everything that he does. And most of the time when he's in the programs with these people, there's, doing things that maybe you don't like and whatnot. There's typically, 2 people involved, right? There's MJF and his opponent. And a lot of the time, the opponent kind of agrees to go along with these things. And then, Tony Khan sort of gives his okay and his seal of approval so that this can end up on television. We have to stop pretending like MJF has this complete and utter run of the place and that everyone just takes a back seat to the whims that Maxwell Jacob Friedman has. It's unrealistic. It doesn't make sense. It's bonkers. The comparisons that I hear are just completely nuts. But I look, I know it's not going to be a necessarily popular thing that I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it. I say that if you take the Hangman fans, you put them in a group, and you take the MJF haters and you put them in the group, I think the Venn diagram of those two groups is more like one big circle. I think there's mostly crossover as opposed to anything else, because we've seen it before. The Hangman fans have a select number of people that are approved by them when Hangman was champion, to be challengers for Hangman, like Swerve Strickland. He is 100% approved. Darby Allin was not, and he still is not. Darby was considered the enemy because there was a rumor going around that the main event of All In might end up being Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin. So Darby is not approved by the fans. MJF, not approved by the fans. Swerve is, because the Hangman fans know that if Swerve gets involved in the world title picture, it immediately means that the Hangman is going to be involved in it as well, because their histories are intertwined. That's, you don't need me to explain why that's going to happen. So MJF just doesn't have the approval. The Hangman fans would prefer to have nothing to do with him. And again, look, you can have all the criticisms you want in regard, the P. Diddy stuff, which again, I think it's a try-hard edgelord joke that MJF does time and time and time again. And if at this point you haven't figured out that MJF's character is exactly this, a try-hard edgelord that eventually starts getting real human emotions when things don't go his way. If you've been watching AEW all this time and it still hasn't dawned on you, I don't know what to tell you. Again, I know I'm not going to change your mind. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just telling, I can't relate to people who don't enjoy his work. I don't relate to people who compare him to The Miz or to Triple H. People who have had legitimate issues being top guys, right? Especially The Miz. The Miz was a test at being a world champion, and it didn't work out. And he's been a sweet little mid-carder doing his own little thing in his corner. Who gives a fuck, right? Triple H, the issues why people hated him are many. One of them, look, you can say, didn't have the charisma, didn't have the work, but on top of that, didn't put anyone over. You cannot pin that kind of stuff on Max. You just can't. You cannot go around saying Max doesn't lose to people, or that's a bald-faced lie. Max has the charisma, he has the work, and he has the ethic, because he understands that the business is stronger if everyone works together. Now, and everyone does their part to elevate everyone. He understands this. And I know, like I said, most people here most people who don't like MJF don't want to. I'm not going to sway anyone. All I can do is just express how I'm feeling. So, you can continue to compare him to Triple H or MJF, but it's funny how, MJF will be compared to universally disliked pro wrestlers, when in fact, he is much closer to what guys like Ric Flair and Roddy Piper are. And again, like on Blue Sky, I was, having a little back and forth. And I brought that point up exactly. And they were saying, Ric Flair never upstaged the baby faces and, was always, I'm like, what? Excuse me? Have you ever watched, like there are some people I think that really have to dive back into the careers of the people that they're trying to compare or that they're trying to go back. Not that I'm saying that Ric Flair upstaged the baby faces. I don't even see Max doing that. So I don't know exactly what we're talking about. Piper was an incredible talker. He got tons of heat. He got tons of heat. Good worker, very good worker. Particularly before he got to WWF. And we're going to pretend that MJF is not closer to Triple H and The Miz? Are we really going to be that disingenuous? Is this the discourse that we're going to go on? Because he makes a P. Diddy joke because he has a long promo? Why wouldn't you let this guy have long promos? You know, sometimes I don't understand the level of derangement that exists around MJF. I don't understand it. I would think wrestling fans would be, you know, smarter, and I mean smart in the wrestling term of it, not like pure intelligence. I'm just, you know, would have been smartened up enough. There you go. That's how I should have said it in the first place. I would have thought that wrestling fans would have been smartened up enough to understand what he's doing and just like go along for the ride and just let themselves be entertained, as opposed to them being offended that their guy, let's be honest, it's their guy. They're not bending over backwards because Speedball Mike Bailey isn't getting more time on TV, or because, you know, the Bang Bang Gang isn't getting, Juice Robinson's not enough on television because of MJF. That's not the reason. It's not for multiple reasons, because their guy is not getting an equal amount of time. And we are pretending that this is not by design by all those involved. Anyway, said my piece. Again, I can't sit here and try to reverse course and try to convince anyone who doesn't agree with me that they're wrong. I mean, that's not the point. I'm not going to change anyone's minds, because the people who hate MJF are profoundly entrenched. I feel like I'm as fair as possible when it comes to MJF. Yes, it's a wrestler I like, but I think you can go back and listen to my stuff. When he's done stuff that I didn't like, boy, I didn't have any issues to call him. I had no issues to call it out. No issues at all. But I will seldom hear when MJF nails a promo, when he nails something great. I do not see the outpouring of people going, yeah, you know what? This was great, Max. And no, they're going to go grumble in a corner. When he's going to have an all-time match, when he has an all-timer match with Mystico, I'm not seeing people going, well, you know what? No, they say, yeah, they stay silent until the next promo that he has. And then it's like, oh, what a motherfucker. All he does is talk and he's not good at it. He's such an edgelord and he's just, you know, generational Miz. That's all he is. You know, whatever the fuck. Right? And I think the really hard point here, I think the pill that is going to be really hard to swallow for a lot of people is that this 4-way match that's going to happen at World's End, I've made peace with it. I've made peace with that match. I don't like multi-man matches. I don't like multi-person matches for titles. I don't. I think they stink. Build a contender, right? But in this circumstance, they may have sold me on the idea, because they are going to, in this match here, they're going to be establishing some of the major storylines for the next couple of months, maybe even leading into All In. We are going to be, these are all the major players. These are all the major guys. And Samoa Joe. But the major guys of this company are all involved in this match, and they're going to have through lines. They already have existing relationships. They already have, you know, motivations for and against each other. This is going to translate into stuff happening, storytelling in this match, if you will, that is going to carry into the next few months. Hangman, Swerve, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And let's keep Samoa Joe in there. And eventually Will Ospreay is going to pop back in, right? All of these guys together. It's all leading to something. We've got our foundations that are the foundations of what's going to happen over the next couple of months are going to happen in that match at World's End. There's multiple avenues. There's multiple things you can do. And I know like some people got really upset that MJF got included in this match that had that had the swerve, that's the swerve hangman stuff. But I think this match got much more interesting with MJF being thrown into it, because now you're not just depending on 3 guys and 2 guys that are baby faces and respect each other. Now you've got 1 extra guy, and this guy's he's the Loki, he's the trickster, he's the guy who can like fuck things up for everyone and who can throw a wrench in relationships and whatnot, because he's a bastard, because Max is going to do everything to just screw with everyone as long as he can reach his own goals, right? This match has gotten so much more interesting now that he's been added into it. But somehow he's the worst thing. He's the worst thing in AEW. He's the worst. He's the plague of All Elite Wrestling for some reason. I don't know. And listen, I know some of you don't like, because I talk to you guys. There's a lot of you who I talk to. I know there's some of you who don't like MJF and who have very valid critiques. Like I said, there are things that you can levy towards them that make absolute perfect sense, and I don't have an issue with, because reasonable minds can disagree. What I have an issue with is with the unreasonable minds, when people go too far and don't have anything to add outside of, oh, bad promo man is here. That's all. All right, so let's run down the rest of what we haven't covered. We'll probably try and go through this fairly quickly. We've got the Elite defeating the Don Callis family trio of Hechicero, Kazuchika Okada, and Konosuke Takeshita. For some reason, I was going to say Katsuyori Shibata. Don't ask me why. This was great. I think this might have been my favorite match of the show. The Bucks are so scintillating still to this day. Nick Jackson in this match was phenomenal once again. Like these guys have had a tremendous 2025 that, people are not going to recognize because they weren't running around with championships and whatnot. But this was a year that the Young Bucks sort of reminded everyone, hey, you know what? We are one of the greatest tag teams ever. You might even say we are the greatest tag team of all time. And I'd be okay with that. Just incredible stuff that ends with a combination Meltzer driver. What do they call it? Is it still the Meltzer driver? The Indie Taker? No, the Indie Taker is not quite that. Meltzer driver, TK driver. What do they call it now? Anyway, combination Meltzer driver, one-winged angel by the Elite guys, and they win $1 million off of that. It was really good. Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita showed some more tension between the two, but they also worked together here a little more. And at the end, the Don Callis guys sort of run roughshod over the Elite, but Kenny Omega runs in with a broom to clean house because he is the cleaner. You see, I thought Kenny seemed to be into it. He seemed to be in a good mood. Looked a little rough sometimes though. Like you can't escape. I don't think he fell flat on his ass on purpose. Anyway, I enjoyed this. It was fun. Probably my favorite match of the night. I'd give it a 4-star. The 4-star treatment, if you ask me. This was a lot of fun. After that, we had the world title contract signing. Then we had Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight backstage. The babyface team, all like happy and full of positivity. Talking about how both guys just gave it all, they're all on each other, and it hurt, but they didn't expect anything less. It's like good old fashioned babyface energy competition. I'm like, yeah, let's more of this. This is good. Megan Bayne, Marina Shafir, Mercedes Moné, and Athena defeated the Babes of Wrath and the Timeless Love Bombs. It is kind of wild. Again, like the discrepancy that exists sometimes within the women's division, where like the top women are incredibly good, and then the lower card women are not that good. And there doesn't seem to be like a medium between the two. Either these women are all really, really good to excellent, or they're just like, no, they're too green. They're not good. There's a bunch of reasons. And there doesn't seem to be like a middle. Like the drop off is tremendous. And again, in this kind of match, I'm like, Shafir and Harley Cameron, they're like, ugh. They're not on the same level as the other women in this environment. And I think Megan Bayne has gotten so much better this year. For me, she's a candidate for most improved wrestler. I don't know. What did I give this match here? I gave it 3 stars. Like, it wasn't a complete mess, because you've got too many talented women here that are keeping all of this together. And by the way, you know how sometimes I talk about how Willow should just retire the pounce, just never mind the pounce moving forward, because it's just like she never seems to hit it. She hit this pounce perfectly. She was spot on with it. It was excellent. Just an excellent pounce. Perfect timing by Mercedes on it. It was Mercedes, right, who took it. It was absolutely fantastic. But the heels win with the O-face. So we're opening up to a tag team match for the titles at World's End. Once again, Athena's going to get pinned. We'll talk about that when that happens. Once again, this 3-year champion, this greatest run of all time, but she's always losing. Anyway, I said I wanted to get through this. We're not going off on another tangent right here, but this is what it leads to, and hopefully maybe more Willow, more Mercedes. We'll see how this goes. Then we had the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal. I never rate Battle Royals, but I can give you my impressions on them. I think this one stunk. I don't care about anyone who was in this match. I got nothing. I thought it was bad. I didn't care. Let's just move on. I've got nothing. The winners are Bandito and Ricochet, and they're going to fight each other next week to find out who gets a shot at Max and the Dynamite Diamond Ring. So there you go. Jon Moxley cuts a great backstage promo talking about the Continental Classic and how this is like a spot where you earn everything, where you just work and you work, and he's going to give everything. What did he say? He said he's going to leave. He's going to take all his shots and he's going to leave all the bullets in the ring until there's nothing left in the chamber, something like that. I might be completely butchering his analogy, but it was great. Mox is fantastic, and keeping everything focused and clean and clear in regards to the Continental Classic. It was just fantastic. Athena and Mercedes Moné have a backstage interview, which not only leads to the title match, but also Mercedes decides that she's going to put the Rev Pro women's British championship, I think, right? That unified British, I don't know. I don't remember. But the Rev Pro women's title, she's going to put it up for grabs against the local talent on Collision. Collision meaning, the what we're doing on Saturday. Jamie Hayter defeated Isla Dawn. Now, listen, I thought this was good, rugged, hard hitting. I want to talk about Isla Dawn for a second. I think this is might be a hot take. I don't know. I have no idea. But I think the AEW women's division needs someone like Isla Dawn. And I personally, I'm kind of surprised hearing those words come out of my mouth, but in a division that has, Marina Shafir's and Harley Cameron's and Sky Blues and Julia Hart's, and why not have a woman like Isla Dawn, who you don't have to push as a star, but who you can have there, come in, take some L's, but in the meantime, have a solid, rugged, good, hard-hitting professional wrestling match, which is what she had with Jamie Hayter. I was like, whoa, she's actually really good here. Her strikes were on point. Everything looked good. She had snap and vigor to what she was doing. If anything, she understood that once again, she's getting some TV time, so she's going to make the most she can out of it. Now, I'm not saying push her to the moon. That's not my point. But you could have her in your roster, filling up roles that are taken by other women who do not have the same level of torque and experience that she demonstrates when she gets in the ring. I was impressed here. I thought she was really good. And of course, she's fighting Jamie Hayter, who is, not afraid to lay it in and not afraid to take a couple of big shots either. I thought this was a nice, nifty, strong little match. I enjoyed it a great deal. After the match, that is won by Jamie Hayter, of course, by using the Haterade, the Triangle of Madness attack Jamie until Chris Statlander comes in to make the save, but then accidentally eats a Haterade by Hayter. Statlander does. And, so completely accidental. She didn't want to take her out, but she did. And instead of, doing, oh no, what did I do? So she sort of shrugs it off. She goes, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. She was kind of okay with it. And I'm like, all right, I like this. we're going into a big title match. Yeah, the challenger should be okay to have laid out the champion. I'm okay with that. And then in the main event, FTR defeated the Bang Bang Gang to retain the AEW World Tag Team Championship. I liked this match a lot. I thought it was really good. Particularly enjoyed the final stretch. FTR are just absolutely fantastic. This heel run has been extraordinary. They have been excellent, and it continues here, pulling off all sorts of shenanigans to try and get easy, cheap wins, and it's just not working. The powder and all of that, and it comes to an end when Dax gets a hold of Juice and works over his knee, which was shoot injured, but starts working over it like suddenly towards the end in very, very brutal fashion, and then does like a grapevine type of inverted figure four to get Juice to tap while Cash is holding on to Austin and Gunn. Terrific. I thought it was a blast. 3 3/4 stars for me, and we're gonna wrap up this review. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience for being here. Of course, I will be back on Monday with another live stream, and stay abreast. Follow me on Blue Sky at MrWarrenHayes.show. Join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord, or keep an eye on the YouTube community tab just for the schedule of upcoming AEW Dynamite reviews. We'll see how it goes. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and I'll see you next time.